Hi, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace, and this right here is a Guillow's Lancer. I have built the Javelin long ago and the Arrow. I've built several arrows. I have not built this one, but we're going to try it for the postal contest that's being held. And so we'll build this out, show you some of my personal tricks, and it should be fun. Alright, so let's open this little guy up and see where all this goes. Sorry, I have commentary here. Yeah, you can have the clear plastic covering. So this is a classic Guillow's design that's been around for forever. Ooh yeah. Printed nicely in color. I think they have been for many years. So this is the strip wood that's included, and we're just going to build it pretty bone stock here. One interesting thing is, for at least some of this, Guillow's has gone to laser cut wood. They've still got the printing here, but laser cut there, which is hilarious because the rest is die cut. I haven't fought with die cut wood in a long time, so that should be interesting. We're not going to do the landing gear stock. We're going to do a slightly different one. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, decals, plastic covering, yada yada yada. Wish they would include TAM2 rubber, but that's another story. Okay, so what we're going to do is start with the fuselage, and so everything is labeled out, all the little uprights and whatnot. The sheet balsa is all 1/20th sheet, but the strips are 1/16th square, so that makes things a little sketchy at times. But we're going to cut all these out in complete sets, and we'll cut out the cross pieces at the same time, which the patterns for those are over here on the other side, so we'll cut out all of those as well. Okay, so this is a in part a do as I say, not as I do moment, because what I have been doing is I just cut all the fuselage parts out here. Of course, I've got all the uprights here. I did not cut the cross pieces because the way that they have it formatted is just not convenient for that. So I've not been super impressed with the die cutting on this airplane. It's just not that great. So we're gonna just work our way through it. So I'm not pinning things down because, quite frankly, I'm under a little bit of a time crunch here. So let's see, where'd my A1 piece go? This is exactly why I say not to do this the way I did it. Is because you start losing things. And apologies, we now have a budgie in addition to our cockatiel. And he very much likes the cockatiel. Hopefully eventually he will shut up about the fact that he can't see the cockatiel. If not, he'll get sent to another room. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab one of these, and I'm not going to show all of this construction because this is just not super critical stuff here. But we'll show enough to kind of get you the idea. And I'm just using thin CA because, like I said, I'm under a bit of a time crunch. So we're going to build the fuselage sides exactly to the plans. I'm not changing them because I don't see anything that is terribly problematic there. Of course, this is 1/20th sheet. These are 1/16th square uprights, so there's some sticking up, which is a little annoying, but you know, is what it is. Alright, so we've got the fuselage sides built out here. I'm sliding around, that's okay though. They're built out on the parchment paper, which they have somewhat stuck to. But they're built exactly per the plans, so you just follow the instructions and you make them, and they're there. There we go. And so you've got these stiffeners at several places. We're probably going to do something up here on the nose too, because we're not going to leave the nose stock. I am not using the old Guillow's way, because we want to be able to stretch, wind, and do all that stuff. But the bottom line is these are mirror images of each other, so when you put them together, all the stiffeners are on the inside, not protruding out. Okay, so we're going to get started with joining the fuselage sides together, and so there are some formers here that go in, one here and one up here. So like this one is supposed to go right here. However, there is an issue that I have with this former, which is that hole is extremely small, and you got to fit a bunch of rubber through there. And I'm concerned not only for performance, but also for this former just getting beaten out. So I'm going to open it up a little bit, and I'm not going to try to be artsy with it or anything. I just want to open it up enough, have a little bit more space for the rubber motor to flop around in here. If you were planning on using a blast tube, you would need to open it up even further. So I've opened this one up a little bit, also opened up the rear former as well, just because I'm afraid that's just going to blow apart if it's kept constricted like that. And so we're going to slide this guy in, try to get it lined up top and bottom. There are better ways to do this, but this is the way I'm going to do it. And then we'll do this one as well. Okay, next we're going to drop this other fuselage side on top like so, and we're just going to secure it in. And there we go. And my son's doing schoolwork in the background, so apologies for all the goings on there, and my attempt to spray glue on myself. Sorry, that part's bugging me a little bit. We're going to wait to join the back up, but we'll go ahead and do the front. Now with the front, the intent is that you have this piece that comes in like so, and then you're going to build up this former on the front and whatnot. Since we're not going to do that, I am going to add little stiffeners in here. And they're just strips. I don't know how well that shows up. now we can fit these in place. And so there we go. I'm going to put some side stiffeners on the inside as well, so we'll cut those to size and then come back. So now we have built up the entire inside of this nose to support a nose block, and we'll cut the nose block in a little bit. First I want to get all these cross pieces in, and we're just going to follow the plans and drop those in, and then when we get the back, we'll close up the back. The fuselage is now almost fully assembled, except for wet glue. Oops. What we haven't done is the mounting fixture for the landing gear, because I'm not going to do the landing gear the way it's shown on the plans. I cannot stand that attachment. It breaks, it's fragile, it's no good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it my way, which is I'm going to use this as a gauge because this former is a little outsized. Like I said, the die cutting on these is not great. I found out that the former is a different size than the templates for the cross pieces here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut two pieces like this, and I'm going to glue one of them in right here, and I'm going to glue it in at an angle slightly protruding out too. So you can see I've got it slightly protruding out here, and we'll sand it flat afterwards. I also have it slightly forward of this former so that when I make the landing gear a little big, they'll slot in there just fine.
What just happened?
So we're going to squirt glue in. And we've got that. Now the proper way to do this would be to size your landing gear and then space the second piece apart with that. I'm in a hurry. I also have wet glue. Alright, this should be about right here. Actually, let me find some landing gear wire here, so I actually can space this apart. Now the last thing we're going to do is take some scrap pieces here, and I'm going to build up some gussets to go in there. Well, I thought the glue was still wet, maybe not. And there we go. Alright, next step is we're going to build up a nose block here. So I'm going to size off of the inside of the nose here to make top and bottom of my little square. I'm going to stick those in. Use them as gauges for the sides. And there we go. Stop it. Hate when that happens right there. And almost done with this part. Or not. And there we go. So I have this little thing that's going to be my nose block key. Now I want to squirt this with CA accelerator so it stays put. And then this should slide in while I break parts out of the airplane. We'll need to sand that. Alright, so I've got that part fitted in, and now all we have to do is take these nose block pieces that are supplied with the kit. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue them on to the key, not to the fuselage, maybe. And that should give us a very nice nose assembly. Problem is, they're not cross-grained, so that's going to stink. Except they're supposed to be cross-grained. Brilliant Guillows. Right, well, what we'll do is we'll glue this one on, and then we'll sand it round enough. Let's go from there, but I need medium CA. Okay, so we've got some medium CA, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and glue
what could Fred do?
my cross grain deal together here, and then we'll show how to sand it so it's not total garbage.
What does it say?
Because as you can see, I don't know if it shows up, those don't line up real well.
You have a few minutes to play.
And there we go. Now we'll hit it with CA accelerator. And now we have a nose block. I'll just go ahead and show that we can. Sand this. And this should give us a very nice result. There you go. All that's really required. Now the last thing that we're going to do, positioning this correctly, you can't tell whether that nose block is right side up or upside down. So I am going to cut out a tiny little triangle here. Maybe I am. There we go. So you see I have this tiny little triangle right here. Now, I've kept everything lined up, matching, yada yada yada, so that I can then come in here and do slice out this one right here. And in theory, yep, there we go. Fits in. And now this nose block only goes in one way, so I can't get it upside down or whatever. So now when I do my thrust line adjustments, they're all locked in. So we'll sand the rest of the airplane, and then I'll show landing gear. The next thing we're going to do is make landing gear for this airplane. So we're going to use these legs down here sort of as a gauge for that, since I didn't see anything else that really, actually, wait a minute, now we can use this. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend off to the side here, and they show using an axle for a pin for your axle. That's going to break out of there the first hard landing this thing has. So we're going to do it right. So what I'm going to do, I hope that's going to be long enough even. Of course, this is a side view. I should make that longer. I'm going to make it the length all the way up to inside the fuselage, just so we make sure we have good prop clearance. So we'll bend that in like so. I'm going to go with the width of my pliers, for lack of a better gauge. So I've now got half of a landing gear. Now for the width of this crossbar, because this part's going to go up inside the fuselage, I'm going to use the fuselage itself as a gauge. Hopefully I don't screw up too badly. Let's see, I'm doing that wrong. Yeah. There we go, like that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we now have this shape. Measure down to here. And then we're bent out like so. And now, if we've done it right, this will fit into the fuselage. And look at that, it does. It's a little loose. I need to work on that part. I may make another landing gear that fits better. You can see it fits nicely. And so now I have removable landing gear for storage that won't break off so easily. Okay, so we have landing gear installed. I just bent the ends of these wires over to hold the wheels on. And then, so this is your propeller assembly that you're supplied with. It's already bent out and everything. And I just want to show you. If you take this nose block and slide this thing in here, first of all, it's hard to get it in with the prop shaft. So I don't know how you're supposed to get a wound motor. I guess it does fit, all right. But so the problem is this fits very loose. So that's not going to give you good control under power. The good news is, since we've made this removable nose block, using the parts in the kit actually, we can glue this in and it's going to stay put. That being said, that prop shaft has to go. So we're going to unbend the prop shaft, and we're going to make a proper propeller shaft. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to bend a reverse S-hook prop shaft, so I'm going to bend off to the side like so, and then I'm going to take this and bend it this way around, bend backwards here. And the shape of this will become apparent about now. So I've got my zigzag shape that I'm after. Grab the other side, bend up and in. And now we will bend over like that. Check that it spins correctly. It's not perfectly centered yet. So you want to sight down the prop shaft that it intersects the middle of this crossbar. And it mostly does now. So that's a reverse S-hook prop shaft. Now we're going to go ahead and glue the bearing in place before we go any further. Now we will slide prop shaft through. It's got a little bit of play, it's not too bad. Prop goes on like so. And I'm going to leave a fair amount of excess out the back, probably more than I need, but it's alright. I'll shorten it if it ever becomes a problem. And now we have an assembly in here that will last. And there you go. Having gotten the fuselage out of the way, I've gone ahead and I've cut out all the wing ribs, and so all of these ribs came from one sheet up here and these down here, and if you'll notice I've staggered them. And the reason for that is the sheet that they came from is extremely heavy. I mean, like, seriously, this center rib actually has about as much wood in it as an entire mini stick. It's that heavy. Now, there is an extra one here, so we're going to toss the heavy one and we're going to use the light one. Now, I'm also going to pull all of the light ones in here. So the reason that I'm staggering these is so that, as best as I can achieve, each wing will weigh the same, so I don't have to add lead to one side or the other to balance it. There are definitely some die cutting deficiencies. This is just miserable. Terrible airfoil on this airplane as well. If you played with these, you know, they don't really glide that great. The design of the airplane, as far as the layout, structural design even, is really not bad. Although this wing could use a bottom spar to prevent warps, for that matter, so could the stab. But the, man, the airfoil is just, it's terrible. It's really sad. Anyway, we're going to slide all these out of the way, and you know, you should be doing this on an actual foam building board so you can press pins into it, but like I've said, I am in a serious time crunch to get this airplane done, because the date to fly it is upon us. I'm trying to weigh everything down here. This is going as poorly as can be expected. Alright. So we're going to break out some of our strip wood here for leading and trailing edges. And leading and trailing edges are not of an ideal design either, but we'll let that go for now. Okay, that's definitely not trailing edge stock. here we go. Here's the trailing edge and leading edge stock, which is actually surprisingly light wood. The problem is that the wood selection is that it basically hasn't been. It's just random select wood, and so as a result, the consistency here is just, well, it isn't. I used to, you know, in a way you can kind of excuse it that it's a low-cost kit, except for the fact that Guillow's kits are anything but low cost anymore. This is a $20-something kit, and you know, that's I remember when laser cut kits cost that. Now, obviously they cost much more. I mean, look at my website. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna hide it. Look, we're expensive. And the issue I have is that these die-cut Guillow's kits are approaching that, which is not matched particularly by any major improvement in quality. The one and only quality improvement I've seen that is a very important one is they've redesigned the nose buttons so they can actually hold thrust adjustments, because the old Guillow's thrust buttons just were literally hollow, and so it was impossible to do thrust adjustments on them. So all I'm doing is joining this leading and trailing edge. You know, you could build this one panel at a time, so you wouldn't even have to do that, so you could break it up to the proper dihedral angles and yada yada yada. I'm not going to do that just because, well, I'm being lazy, because I'm in a hurry. Alright. Start weighing some of this stuff down to keep it roughly in position. Hey, I know a great idea. Let's use a hard-to-find engine. Yeah, the plans actually say that you can power these with a Cox Pt.1, which I kind of want to try. I think it'd probably be pretty good. Also, it boosts the wing loading into a Reynolds number regime where maybe it'd be a little more efficient. So we're going to slide all this together and talk about a narrow wing chord, way more narrow than is optimum, especially with that airfoil. Because I think that, you know, it's 24-inch span, and I think it's right around 50 square inches of wing area. So if you fattened up the fuselage, it would actually be legal for FAC embryo. Then the things build to, you know, 25-30 grams, so they're a bit on the heavy side. But still, it'll be a good sport flyer. I've got to do a build of the Arrow at some point, because that's the really nice plane in this series. It still has the screwed up front end assembly, but man, does it fly. Even with the screwed up front end assembly, you can make it fly really well. But if you build it with that, and then put a 9.5-inch pec prop on it, the things will fly, you know, P30 legal, they'll fly for close to 3 minutes. Okay, next step is setting the dihedral on this guy. So we're going to do it mostly per the instructions. So I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to show you how to cut little sticks for your dihedral gauges. You don't want to cut just one, you want to cut two, as I shall show here in a second. I should mention this is in fact one reason why is in fact handy to be able to just slide my flange out of here because of the way they've got this formatted. But anyway, the bottom line is, so this is our dihedral brake right here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this a little bit. And then we will weigh it down here. That's not what I wanted at all. Brittle wood. We're going to trim that to size because that's just getting in the way. Now, obviously, there is an issue with what I am doing right here, which is I just laid my CA bottle down over where I'm going to be doing my wing spars. And the answer is that we're going to cheat somewhat. So we're dipping CA glue in here. We're going to harden that. And then we'll come away. And I've got wash in that tip, and I don't want wash in, I want wash out. I'm actually going to cut this piece slightly shorter so that leading edge will dip down. We'll try and force it in with our wing spars. There we go. And now let's find us some wing spars. So I'm going to use the really hard strips here for my wing spars. Seriously, guys, this stuff is like heart of oak. This is what I remember Guillow's wing spars being like. That other sheet was kind of surprising in that regard. Right, so this is more than enough here. You do have to kind of watch out because they are a little chintzy on the wood in these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working these spars in the inboard section here. And the spar slots are, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's not what I want to do. So I'm going to cut these roughly to size here. I'll do this on 2 of these. May be able to do it on 3, we'll find out. Oh yeah, we're going to have plenty of excess to do this. So what we'll do, let's go ahead and cut all of these to length. And then I'm going to drop these. Nope, those are inboard spars. So we've got a little bit of washout that's sort of formed in there. It's not great, but it'll do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually, before I get too far into this, I am going to go ahead and actually install the spars on the other side and then set the dihedral. And I'll let you, you'll understand in a minute why I'm doing this. So what I'm going to do is on this side, I've got about the overlap I want, right? So I'm going to glue these spars here and here. Man, these slots are loosey-goosey. This reminds me of that Sig Mini Maxer I tried to build, and just one of the few kits I just stopped in before I even started getting stuff glued together and was like, I can't build this. It was this terrible, terrible quality, which is sad because it's a great airplane. I very rarely encounter a kit that's so bad that it makes me do that. So, I'm going to glue those, but we're not going to glue the lap joints here. These slots are a mess. They really are a mess. Okay, so we're going to come over here. We'll repeat the same process over here. Okay, so we're moving on to the tail. I've cut out pieces for my vertical tail. I used the light strip wood that was from the other piece because, look, I'm trying to save weight here. I'm going to use one of the heavier, well, I don't have any option because the 3/32 by 1/16 strips are all on here and they're heavy, so that's going to be my leading edge for the stab. I did preserve one of the really light 1/8 by 1/4 pieces for the stab trailing edge. So hopefully we can keep the weight down a little bit with that. The reality is you can build this airplane with fairly heavy wood and it'll still fly. Now, how long it'll fly is another matter, but it will in fact fly. That's the irony of this design, the quality of the materials and the you know, some of the actual structural, well, the design of the mechanical bits is frankly bottom of the barrel, but the design of the airplane manages to forgive it so that you can still end up with a flyable airplane somehow, some way. Alright, so that gives us our trailing edge there. And we need to find part number D2. And see, these are laser cut. I don't know why these are, well, I do think that I know the dies probably wore out for these. And this is, I mean, this is actually top quality laser cutting here too, which is amazing to me. Now the airfoil shape is, we won't talk about that part. That's glue. And that's way too much glue. So much for all that weight savings I was after. And that in there.
Hey, what are you doing this?
Now you should sand off the laser tabs and whatnot, but that's not happening here. That's just not happening right now. I am under too much of a time crunch. Here we go. I don't know what I'm doing here. I really don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, so I've got the stab and fin finished. One thing that is pretty cool is somebody actually spent some time getting that profile just right there. Now, if only they had spent the time to design an airfoil that didn't look like it was designed by an art student rather than an aerodynamicist. And like I said, it'll fly, but that is a terrible airfoil design, and it really cuts the performance of this airplane down. But we've got those done. I'm going to sand these, so I'm going to try to profile those ribs into the leading edge somewhat. I'm going to actually have to on the wing because they actually protrude slightly, which is just terrible. For the trailing edges, they require you to sand off these bits back here, which is okay. I get it. That's part of the die cutting process. It used to be you had to do the same thing with the horizontal tail. Now that they're laser cut, you don't have that problem anymore. But we're going to sand it, and then we'll come back and talk about sealing it and covering it. We have doped this airplane quite thoroughly to the point it's stuck together with some Randolph tautening nitrate. There's a difference. I get this from Aircraft Spruce because I don't like buying little containers that are just as expensive. Thinned it 50-50 with acetone, and so gave everything a good coating. I should mention before doping, this airplane was just under 12 grams for the structure here. The problem is that it came up to 20 grams when you added these two items. So literally half of the weight of the aircraft is right here. Now most of that is in the propeller, but also these wheels are quite heavy. You could go down a wire size on the landing gear as well. I wanted to stay with wire size in the kit, but anyway, bottom line is, yeah, this is not lightweight hardware. And if the airplane ends up nose heavy, I'll change to a Chinese gray prop that I've got that is the same size, so it'll still be legal for the postal contest and so on. Now, that being said, a 6-inch prop is suboptimal for this airplane. You should be swinging, for an airplane of this wing area, I would recommend more like a 7, even 8-inch prop. But beggars can't be choosers. I'm flying this for the postal contest, so I'm trying to keep it in that spirit. Afterwards, we may change it up though, because afterwards it's just a, you know, another toy in the collection. So we may go up to an 8-inch prop, see what we can do with it.
Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.